Sciences, which is being organized by the Department of Zoology, Uday Pratap Autonomous College. It is sponsored under the DBT Star scheme, especially the DBT Star status given by Department of Biotechnology, New Delhi, to our college. And in this session, I invite Professor M.K. Thakur sir from Department of Zoology, BHU. Sir is a renowned scientist and has been working in the department since last several decades. He has been helping us through his mentorship program, as well as always he has helped us in organizing several programs under DBT Star scheme. Earlier also, along with Madam Haldar, Sir had come once when we had another grant from DBT and we organized an intercollegiate youth festival. So in that also, Sir came and he gave a very interesting lecture. So today, once again, we are extremely thankful that he has joined us in online mode. Definitely, due to COVID, there are certain restrictions, but students are seeing this live session on YouTube channel of our department, as well as students are joining offline also. So I once again welcome you, sir, with your topic, Mystery of Mind.
Thank you, Dr. Tumul. Let me share my slides first.
Yes, sir.
So,
First, there.
share screen.
Yes, sir. Share
Share
screen. There, then there will be a window, and then you have to select the box, and then proceed.
सर
Is there
नीचे
any problem,
नीचे सर स्क्रीन में म्यूट स्टॉप कॉम माइक एंड देन शेयर प्लस का साइन बना हुआ एक
share.
स्क्रीन है शेयर शेयर पे क्लिक करेंगे सर तो एक विंडो ओपन होगी ठीक है अब उस विंडो पे
Choose
क्लिक
what.
करेंगे सर विंडो पे क्लिक करेंगे तो बॉर्डर बन जाएगा विंडो पे अब आप स्क्रीन अपना पीपीटी प्ले कर लीजिए सर
सर कोई प्रॉब्लम?
स्लाइड शेयर नहीं हुई
नहीं, स्लाइड शेयर नहीं सर, उसके सबसे नीचे स्क्रीन शेयर आ रहा है।
स्क्रीन शेयर
वीडियो फाइल है
यस
और
सर,
फिर
स्क्रीन शेयर करिए
स्क्रीन है
एंड देन शेयर स्क्रीन एक बार और सर क्लिक करना होगा। एक शेयर टिप्स आएंगे, उसको बस सिंपली शेयर स्क्रीन पे क्लिक कर देंगे तो आ जाएगा सर आपका।
स्टॉप शेयरिंग कर दें।
जस्ट मिनट सर, समथिंग वाज बट
एक बार स्टॉप शेयरिंग करिए सर और फिर से
शेयर
आइए।
स्क्रीन में ये स्क्रीन
सर सबसे
शेयरिंग
पहले तो शेयर है, उसके बाद शेयर स्क्रीन है। शेयर स्क्रीन पे करें क्लिक,
लास्ट
फिर
में
एक विंडो आएगी शेयर स्क्रीन, फिर क्लिक करें टिप्स वाली विंडो, उस पे शेयर स्क्रीन करें। अब एक नया विंडो ओपन होगा उसको सेलेक्ट करें एंटायर स्क्रीन में, बस क्लिक करेंगे तो बॉर्डर बन जाएगा।
वो सर ब्लू कलर का
बॉर्डर
बॉर्डर
तो
हो
बन
जाएगा।
गया।
हाँ,
हाँ,
नीचे शेयर ऑप्शन
नीचे
आ रहा है।
शेयर ऑप्शन।
थोड़ा कभी कभी कटेगा सर, तो सिंपली ब्लू जो एक्टिव हुआ होगा जस्ट नीचे, उसको क्लिक कर देना होगा।
वो फिर हमारा स्लाइड आना चाहिए ना इसमें से। ये
पहले
आप
आप
करने
सर
से
शेयर कर
शेयर
दीजिए सर।
हाँ, जस्ट मिनट, आप शेयर कर चुके हैं, हम सर यहाँ ऐड टू स्ट्रीम करेंगे अब। कुछ आया नहीं।
स्लाइड विजिबल नहीं है ना।
हाँ, हो गया सर, आपकी स्क्रीन शेयर हुई है सर। अब आपको स्लाइड ओपन करना है इसी मोड में
अब
सर।
जो पीपीटी है सर वो आप ओपन कर लीजिए।
शेयर हो चुका है सर। या
बस हो
So
गया
is it
सर।
visible?
यस
Yes,
सर,
sir.
विजिबल,
Visible है?
बट हाँ सर, इसको स्लाइड शो मोड में कर
स्लाइड
लीजिए।
शो
यस सर,
मोड
यस
में
सर,
कर।
नाउ इट इज विजिबल इन फुल।
हो गया। It's okay?
यस
यस
सर।
सर।
All right. All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Tumul Singh and Aswini.
थैंक यू।
I'm sorry for the delay due to technical reasons. Uh, I'm very happy that UP College has got DBT star status from the Ministry of Science and Technology, Department of Biotechnology, and it's organizing this program, and I'm part of it. Uh, so when Dr. Tumul asked me to deliver a talk, and that will not be from my research area, so I thought to share my experiences with you about our mind. Uh, so it won't be my core research. Our laboratory at Banaras Hindu University has been working in neuroscience, and we are interested to understand the changes in the human brain or in the brain which occur with advancing age, and what are the consequences of these changes. So I'll be touching that part at the end. But before that, let me uh, tell you how our mind works. So earlier, this was the subject of philosophers and psychologists, but now neurobiologists are also taking much interest in exploring this subject. So, as you know, the physical basis of this mind is brain. So, I shall be telling you about uh, mind in the beginning, and then about the brain, its structure, function, and several factors which affect the function of the brain. And at the end, I will tell you about the changes which occur in the brain with advancing age, particularly in cognitive faculties which are responsible for mind. And before closing the lecture, I will tell you how to maintain the brain healthy and keep our mental functions active throughout the life. So, as you know, this is the definition of mind in biological terms. A mind is the set of cognitive faculties that enable consciousness. Consciousness is awareness. Awareness or alertness uh, in your neighbors. So you should know what is going on and what is in your surroundings. Then comes perception, that how do you perceive this information through your sense organs. And once you perceive this, for example, you see or you hear, then how do you think about this? That this sensory information is processed in the brain, and then thinking process starts. And after thinking, you take decision about this sensory information. That is what is known as judgment. So how you judge this, and if you can store this information, then that is known as memory. So these are the characteristics of humans: consciousness, perception, thinking, judgment, and memory. And this makes your mind, right? So these are very important cognitive functions. And there are several sayings about mind. You know, Lord Buddha, or Gautam Buddha, he was born in a wealthy family, and he was moved by sufferings of the people. And so he told, or he stated, that the mind is everything. What you think, you become. So you are the result of your thinking process. So this thinking is very important. Then there is a French philosopher, Rete Docurus. He uh, told cogito ergo sum. This is French proverb, which means I am I because I can think, and I can think because I have a brain. So brain is the physical basis of this thinking process, and our identity and personality, this all depends upon the brain and thinking process. So I would be telling you about this in more details today. So here I am showing you a picture of 6 great Indians who are great because their thinking power was very high. So we know that this picture is Dr. C.V. Raman, who was the Indian physicist who got Nobel Prize in 1930 for discovering light scattering. So this was a great personality. Then we know Sir J.C. Bose, Jagdish Chandra Bose, who demonstrated that plants have lives. And this is Rabindranath Tagore, who was a great Indian poet, and he composed this Gitanjali, for which he was awarded Nobel Prize in 1913. So he was the first Indian to get this Nobel Prize. Then we know this Dr. Swami Vivekanand, who was a great Indian religion, and he was a great philosopher, and he had great thinking process. Then we know very well Bharat Ratna Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya ji, who was a great education reformer, social reformer, and uh, freedom fighter. And he established Banaras Hindu University, right? Then we know our ex-president Abdul Kalam, who was a great scholar and a missile man of India. So all these Indians were great during their time because their thinking power was very high. So this thinking or mind is very important, and it makes a man what he or she is, right? So particularly humans are the most intelligent among all the animal kingdom subjects. So as you see here, this man is saying, I am more intelligent than you. So this is because humans have very highly developed brain. So what you see, what you uh, realize, what you understand, what you think about this, and what you decide about this. So all these faculties together make a person intelligent. You might have heard of this great physicist, Albert Einstein, who got Nobel Prize in 1921. And he is known for discovering the theory of relativity, light, and quantum mechanics. And he proposed the law of photoelectric effect, right? So he was a great person. And after his death, uh, his brain was analyzed because he was so genius that people wanted to know that what is in his brain which makes him so great. And for this reason, one pathologist, he checked his brain, and his brain has been sliced into different sections, and those sections are still preserved in a museum in US. And when his brain was compared with the brain of a normal human being, then it was found that the prefrontal cortex of his brain was larger than a normal brain. And his brain was about 15% wider. And the density of neurons, that's the brain cells, was relatively much higher. And also the number of glial cells, another type of brain cells, was much higher, which reflects that his brain was metabolically very, very active, right? So every animal needs brain for uh, for different functions, and this brain has, even in small organisms, uh, they have brain, but that brain is very simple, simply a bundle of nerves. And in vertebrates you can find brain from fish to mammals, and you can see that the brain of these animals have developed with course of time. So earlier, when the animals like fish and amphibians were living in water, then the brain was adapted for that, and when it shifted to land, then brain got adapted. So brain has a great adaptation capability, which makes human to adapt according to its surroundings. And in due course of evolution, it has been found that this brain has become larger and larger and more complex. So human has a super brain which is highly complex. And if you compare the weight of brain with the body weight, then you will find that the ratio of brain to body weight has increased with evolution. So as you see, in case of whale, brain weight is 5 times more than human, right? But the ratio of brain to body weight is very less as compared to humans. So human has the highest ratio of brain to body weight, and so it has a very complex brain. So there are scientists, several scientists who have studied these brains from different animals, and they have studied its structure and function. And is and if you see the list of Nobel prizes which have gone to these discoveries, you'll find that large number of Nobel prizes have been awarded for discoveries in neuroscience, brain research. But still, we don't know completely brain structure, function, and several disorders which are associated with the brain. And this study of brain is highly interdisciplinary. It needs knowledge from several disciplines, like not only from biology, chemistry, physics, computation, and so on. So whatever subjects you say, that is necessary to study the brain. I shall tell you about these discoveries in due course. So today we will discuss mostly about the human brain, which you know that this is the organ which starts developing in the mother's womb, and in the beginning, during the first trimester, in around 3 weeks, the brain develops in the form of a neural tube, right? And then this neural tube bends and it forms a forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain around 1 month of the baby. And then around 2 months, this becomes more lobed, but still it is a smooth brain. And around 3 months, this brain is developed quite highly. Right, then in the next trimester, around 6 months, this smooth brain becomes wrinkled, and more neurons and some connections are developed between these neurons. Then at the end of third trimester, around 9 months, the brain is completely developed, and there are several connections. And I will show you in the next slides that this brain becomes active while it is in the mother's womb. But here one has to remember that if baby is born prematurely, say around 7 months or 8 months, then the brain is not developed completely, and it leads to several types of complications later in life. This brain is connected with a spinal cord, and this brain and spinal cord, it makes the central nervous system. Then brain is connected to different organs through cranial nerves, and similarly there are large number of spinal nerves which are connected to different organs of the body. So this way, this central nervous system and this peripheral nervous system, this constitute the total nervous system, and it controls the whole body. So the information is mainly perceived by through five sense organs. So through ears, nose, eyes, then skin, and tongue. So when these informations are received by the brain, then the three major parts of the brain, cerebrum, cerebellum, and brain stem, they become active. And it is mostly the cerebrum, the largest part of the brain, which are responsible for thinking process, the mind about which we are discussing today. So if you see here the picture, you can see the complexity of the brain, which is highly complex. And and but don't worry about this. We are mainly concerned with this cerebral cortex part, which is responsible for thinking and all the intellectual functions. So we'll be discussing about this in later slides. So in the beginning, around 1900, after the discovery of microscope, scientists started studying the brain, and this is a Spanish scientist, Santiago Ramon y Cajal, who studied the pigeon brain, and he teased this pigeon brain and stained this pigeon brain with Golgi stain. So this Golgi stain was developed by Camillo Golgi, who discovered this Golgi body in the cell. So they both together uh, discovered this structure of the brain, and they told that these are the neurons, which are the basic unit of the brain. And for this, particularly Santiago Ramon Cajal, he proposed neuron theory, like cell theory, stating that neurons are the fundamental units of the brain. And for this discovery, he is known as the father of modern neuroscience. And Santiago Ramon Cajal, along with Camillo Golgi, were awarded Nobel Prize in Physiology and Medicine in 1906 for this discovery. So if you see the structure of these neuronal cells in the brain, you will find, particularly in human, that there are billions of neurons, and there are 10 times more another type of brain cells, which are known as glial cells, like astrocytes, oligodendrocytes, and so on. And these neurons are connected with each other through trillions of, one neuron has thousands of connections with other neurons. So they all together make a highly complex structure, and therefore this Emile Dickinson uh, told that brain is wider than sky, and it is deeper than sea, and it has more connections than uh, stars in Milky Way. Right? So between Kajal and Golgi, there was some debate. Kajal was of the opinion that these neurons are connected with each other uh, through some gaps, whereas the Golgi group believed that these neurons are continuous structures. So later it was resolved that these neurons communicate through two ways. One is through gap junctions, and in majority of 98% of cases, it communicates through synapses, chemicals. So these chemicals are synthesized in one neuron in response to the stimulus, and then these chemicals are transferred to another neuron through synapses. So this is known as synaptic signaling, and this is the basis of brain functions. So when these neurons are connected through synapses, they communicate through these chemicals, different types of chemicals. There are varieties of neurons which produce varieties of chemicals known as neurotransmitters, and this is the basis of brain function. So, this is another story of Otto Loy, who he was a German scientist, and it is said that he dreamed this experiment in the night. He realized this about this experiment while he was sleeping, and the experiment was that he has taken uh, beating heart from two frogs. So in case of amphibian, if you take out the heart, it beats even outside the body. So he took one heart with vagus nerve and another heart without vagus nerve. And then what he did, that he stimulated this vagus nerve, and both the hearts were kept in saline. So when he stimulated, right, then beating of this heart slowed down. So then he took this saline from this donor heart and put this saline on another heart which has no vagus nerve. And now he found that the beating of this heart also slows down. So he concluded that there is something in this saline secreted from this heart, and that something is acting on this heart and slows down its beating rate. So this something, some chemical which was released from this vagus nerve, he named this as vagus stuff. This is in German. And later there was another scientist, Dell, who showed that this vagus stuff is acetylcholine, the first neurotransmitter which was discovered. And for discovering this chemical signaling, Otto Loy and Dell, they were awarded Nobel Prize in Physiology and Medicine in 1936. Then this is another group of scientists, Torsten Wissel and David Hubel, who showed uh, in kittens that how this information is processed in the visual cortex through vision, right? And for this discovery also they were awarded Nobel Prize in 1981, right? So the brain, you'll find that it works 24 hours, 7 days, all the time. So even though it represents only 2% of our body weight, it contains about 20% of total body cholesterol and uses about 20% of total energy what we consume. And it expresses one third of human genes. So there are about 20,000 genes in our body, and out of this, one third is expressed in the brain. So this reflects the importance of this organ. So whatever functions you need, what we do, reading, writing, speaking, different languages, for all these functions, it is the brain which is responsible, and it's different regions of the brain, different parts of the brain. Even during sleep, when we are sleeping, our brain is active. And you know that there are three parts of our brain. One is said as conscious brain, semi-conscious, and unconscious. So during the sleep, this brain passes through all the three stages. So when our brain is semi-conscious during rapid eye movement, then usually we see the dream. And you know, there are several discoveries which have been made during this dream or while in sleep by different scientists. And you might be knowing the structure of benzene. So it was Kekule who discovered this benzene structure, and what he dreamed was that he dreamed a snake, and this snake is taking its tail in its mouth, and this dream gave the idea to Kekule that this is an aromatic structure like this, which is true for benzene, that how these atoms can be arranged. Similarly, you know about the discovery of this double helix structure of DNA by James Watson and Francis Crick, for which they were awarded Nobel Prize in 1953. And they saw in their dream that the two helix of DNA, they are also like two snakes, and these snakes, the mouth of one snake is touching the tail of another snake. So this gave them the idea that this is the arrangement of two strands of DNA in the form of a helix. And so this was a great discovery. So usually these scientists, they have very focused aim, and they keep on thinking always about the problem or about the work what they are doing, about the problem which they are not able to solve. So when the problem is not able to be solved in conscious mind, then when one sleeps, even during semi-conscious stage, brain keeps on thinking about this. And it is so that sometimes solution to these problems are made during dream stage. So students should always keep on thinking, and if one is pursuing the problem, then if it is not solved while conscious mind during awake conditions, one may get the solution during unconscious stage when one is sleeping. You saw all sorts of emotions when you are happy, or when you are angry, or when you are sad, or when you are feeling bad. So all these emotions are controlled by one part of the brain, amygdala. So all these expressions are controlled by this brain. Then you know this Eric Kandel. He is known for discovering the process of memory, that is a part of this mind process, mental function. So he showed, and he used a mollusk, Aplysia, which has very big neurons and only few neurons as compared to other vertebrate animals. And using this animal, he showed that it is mostly the hippocampus which is responsible for the formation and storage of memory. And along with other scientists like Arvid Carlson, Paul Greengard, he showed this mechanism of memory formation. So you can compare this brain with a supercomputer. Like in computer, we have CPU, central processing unit, which are made up of chips, and you can see that this CPU is comparable to the brain, which has uh, which has a network of neuronal cells. So, as brain stores, receives the information, processes it, and stores it in the form of memory, and when there is a need, it can retrieve. Same is true with the computer also. So you can imagine that the brain is composed of um, millions of computers which work in a networking mode altogether in one complex brain structure, right? So we have several neurons, and these are the neurons which have different functions. They make different mm, decisions. And in a simplified mode, I have shown you here that there are some neurons which may give you negative thinking, right? Like if you have to do some work, so these neurons are inhibitory and they will tell you, don't do it. There are other neurons which are supportive, and they are positive neurons, so they will tell you should do it. So depends upon the strength of these neuronal connections that you will take the decision whether to do this or not. So this is what makes a decision at the neuronal level, right? And then in these neuronal cells, particularly in the region of hippocampus, there are cells known as place cells and grid cells, which act like GPS, global positioning system. So this discovery was made around 2014 by O'Keefe, for which he was awarded the Nobel Prize. And this helps you to remember the landmarks, like landmarks. And these functions of the brain, some of these functions become active, as I have told you, while the baby is growing in mother's womb. And we are familiar with this Mahabharata story of Abhimanyu, that he was the son of Arjun and Subhadra. And while he was in mother's womb, he learned the art of penetrating this Chakravyuh. But while Krishna was telling Subhadra about this Chakravyuh, Subhadra slept. So the baby couldn't hear how to get out of this Chakravyuh, and so Abhimanyu was killed there. Another story you might have heard from Bhagavad Katha, that this Narad Muni, he was teaching Prahlad in the mother of his in his mother's womb, Kayadhu, right? And he told very useful stories, and therefore the baby learned these things and behaved in a different way, in a very positive way. So the baby has, when it is born, it has some mirror neurons. So it will see some act and act accordingly, as you see here. So this is because of the presence of mirror neurons. So this love and affection from mother is very important for developing brain. And while in the womb, there is this umbilical cord through which it is connected, and this umbilical cord is not protected very much by this blood brain barrier system in the baby. So the baby is highly vulnerable to get different types of toxic materials from mother. So it's very important that mother takes care of her health, so that it will help the baby also. And even after birth, there are several factors which influence the brain. For example, this air pollution. This is very important these days. And you know that every city has very bad air quality, and particularly during winter time, there is huge pollution, and it's in Delhi. See, this is seen how it is shown during polluted condition, and it has been shown scientifically that if people breathe this polluted air, uh, it mimics the conditions of dementia, like Alzheimer's dementia like condition. So this is very, very harmful, not only for respiratory organs, lungs, but also for the brain. Then different types of radiations, the radiations which come from different uh, like microwaves, which comes from different wireless gadgets like computers, mobiles, and these mobile towers. So all these radiations have very harmful effect if it is exposed for longer time. And it has been shown that particularly in young people, uh, their brain can absorb these microwave radiations more than the adult brain. And it depends, if the exposure is for long time, then it has more serious effects, as it is shown in thermographic images here. And most importantly, stress. When one gets different kind of stress, this is a great risk factor to affect the brain and its function. It stings, it reduces the volume of the brain, and it lowers the ability to cope with adversity. And you know that sometimes when this stress is severe and it is not controlled, then it can lead to depression, and finally it can lead to suicidal conditions. And it has been reported that suicidal uh, data is very high from our country. So this is a very uh, serious condition which one has to understand. Recently, it has been shown that the gut has millions of microbiomes, different types of bacteria, viruses, and other microorganisms. And this gut microbiome has a great impact on the brain function. So, here it is through neural communication, then endocrine and immune connections that it acts. So this gut microbiome has effect on the brain, and brain has effect on the gut microbiome. So if you want to keep your brain active, healthy, one has to have healthy gut microbiome. And recently, all of us have experienced that how this coronavirus infection it leads to different kind of brain or mental disabilities. Like even in post-COVID complications, there are several neuronal problems like anxiety, depression, even dementia, and still we have to see that how this COVID has affected the brain functions and how it can cause different types of neurological problems. But there are several reports showing that this COVID has long-term effect on the brain. And this was a report from Wall Street Journal of US, which showed that how this coronavirus infection can influence the brain functions. Now I shall tell you what I have told you. These are all the normal conditions. But if you insult the brain, if you damage the brain somehow, then this has also more impact on its function. For example, this is an example of Henry Molaison, a boy who was born in US in 1926. And when he was learning riding bicycle at age of 7, he fell down and he got partial seizures for some years. So when he was operated, this temporal lobe of the brain was surgically removed. And so with this surgery, his seizures was controlled, but he developed amnesia, forgetfulness. So he was not able to form new memories. So therefore, this was known. Henry Molaison is known as memory disorder boy, right? For this, so from this accident, it was clear that this temporal lobe of the brain is responsible for formation of this memory. This is another example of Phineas Gage in 1848. So he was a person, American guy who was working in constructing this rail track through forest, and his job was to blast this forest and mountain and construct the railway track. So one day it so happened that an iron rod pierced through his head, and it damaged frontal lobe of the brain. So after this damage, the personality of this person changed completely, and so later it was found that this frontal lobe of the brain is responsible for behavior and personality of a person. Right. So the brain damage can change the mental functions completely. Like this is a boy Barry Kidston who was doing graduation in chemistry, and he synthesized this MPTP in his room, and he consumed this because he was drug addicted. So after consumption of this MPTP, he got some movement disorders, which were the symptoms mimicking Parkinson's. So, with this accidental discovery, it was known that this MPTP is a good chemical to generate Parkinson's disease models, right? Then, even under these were the unusual conditions, but even during normal conditions, one can see that there are several changes in the brain with increasing age, right? And these changes in the brain make the mental activities slowed down or different in old age. Earlier, it was difficult to study these changes in the brain, but after the discovery of imaging techniques, now it is easy to understand the structure of the brain. There are several types of imaging techniques like CT scan, computed tomography scan, or MRI scan, that is magnetic resonance imaging, or PET scan, which tells about the functional aspect of the brain. So these are the several imaging techniques which are used to understand the structure of the brain. So as you know that the population of the whole world is increasing, right? And you see this in this histogram, this red mark is from developing countries, and you see how the people plus 60 plus is increasing, and it is believed that this proportion will be very high in the next 30 years or so. And with this increasing proportion of the people, there will be several neurological issues coming up, and one of the very important neurological issues is in cognitive functions, in mental functions, in mind functions, like attention, language, reasoning, problem solving, motor abilities, memories. All these cognitive functions will be affected, and that will affect the mental functions of a person. It will change the personality of a person. So, but it is known that there are several ways that one can keep brain healthy, like sport or activities, physical activities, mental activities, different types of food, meditation, and so on. One can social interactions. So these are all the aspects, different aspects which can keep the brain healthy and help one to have good mental functions. And you know that what we need is awareness about these neurological problems about our brain and how to maintain this healthy and so on. And for this awareness, even this film industries have made different types of films and to keep the people aware about this. For example, you might be knowing that this is from the film Ghazni, right, where Amir Khan is here and he is demonstrating about the loss of memory, amnesia, anterograde amnesia here. Then this is for Jami Petari here. It is about the dyslexia, which the boy is showing some problem in learning ability of the boy. So this is known as dyslexia. Then this is about the Pa, where this Amitabh Bachchan is playing, and this is the attention deficit disorder, ADHD. What is? So this is another where Hrithik Roshan is showing Koi Mil Gaya, and this is about seizures. He is showing that how it happens. This is another picture about My Name is Khan, where this traumatic brain injury is showing and how it changes the behavior of a person. This is about the film Black, where this big B is showing about the Alzheimer's disease, that how forgetfulness takes place. So there are different films which make aware about different disorders of the brain. So this thinking power is very, very important. And if one has good thinking power, he has great future. So what we know is about the awareness, what I told you in the beginning about the consciousness, then the desire to do something, and belief that yes, you can do it, and then you should do it. So if you combine all these four qualities, this makes your mental capability unlimited. So this Chuck Dance has told that the potential of the human mind is limited only by our individual beliefs or unbelief as to whether we can accomplish thing or not, right? But if you have that focused attention, determination, hard work, and good brain, one can do it. And so I shall end with this saying from our Gandhiji, that if I have the belief that I can do it, I will surely acquire the capacity to do it, even if I may not have it at the beginning. So, so it's very important that a person should have self-confidence that yes, it can be done and he can do it, is capable to do it, and if it is so, then the person can do it. So, with this, the knowledge what I have gained through these years has been through a group of dedicated PhD students who have been working in my lab and have made different several uh, understandings from different aspects of this brain, and we have good collaboration with scientists from India and abroad. And I'm fortunate to have very good funding from different institutions, government agencies, which have helped to get good grants to do the work. And with this, I thank you very much. And I hope I have conveyed the message that it's very important to have very healthy brain so that one can have good thinking capability throughout the life, and that makes one person a great person. So with these words, I have come to the end, and if there is any question, I'd be happy to take it if time permits.
Sir, on YouTube, our YouTube channel, some of the participants, they have written that it was a really very interesting lecture. Thank you so much, sir, for this type of knowledge. It was awesome, sir. And there are several others also. and later on also students will see, because उनके पास भी सर लिमिटेड डेटा होते हैं मोबाइल में, तो
हम्म,
2-3 लेक्चर सुन के ही उनका बाहर से जो देख रहे हैं डेटा खत्म
हम्म,
हो जाता है, तो बाद में वो डाउनलोड करके देखेंगे। और आपका लेक्चर काफ़ी इंटरेस्टिंग था, काफ़ी इंफॉर्मेटिव था, और हमारे शरीर से, हमारे लाइफ से जुड़ा हुआ है। तो ये जाहिर सी बात है कि हमें आगे भी हेल्प करेगा ये लेक्चर। मैं डॉक्टर अश्वनी कुमार निगम को बुला रही हूँ आपको फॉर्मल वोट ऑफ थैंक्स देने के लिए। ही इज़ द ऑर्गेनाइजिंग सेक्रेटरी ऑफ दिस सेमिनार।
थैंक
ओके।
यू मैम
ये
फॉर गिविंग
अच्छा
मी
तो, हाँ
अपॉर्चुनिटी।
अच्छा तो होता, अश्विनी, अच्छा तो
हाँ
होता कि हम वहाँ फिजिकली आकर के वो लेक्चर देते और ज़्यादा
हाँ यस सर।
इंटरेक्टिव रहेगा, तो ये और
जी जी
इंटरेस्टिंग
सर।
होता। बट
जी सर।
एनीवे, देयर इज लिमिटेशन, so
जी
thank you
सर।
very much. Ashwini, you have to tell something.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for your kind effort for this very informative and nice
एक
lecture.
क्वेश्चन है।
Sir, there is one question
There
for
is one
participant.
question, sir.
Yes.
Depression is neurological disorder or mental disorder? Depression is
Yeah,
neurological disorder or mental disorder?
it's a neurological. Neurology includes mental disorder. So depression is usually neuropsychiatric disorder, right?
Okay.
And mental activities like thinking, it is paralyzed during depression. So one cannot think properly. What was so good. So this is a neuropsychiatric disorder.
Okay, so Sonali Singh, sir has told that it is a neuropsychiatric disorder, and hope it is clear to you. If there is any more question, you can ask on YouTube also, those who are there live. Where are you from, Sonali Singh? Can you write your address? If you are listening, can you write your address? थोड़ा delay चलता है। चलो, बोल।
Okay, so I think, sir, no more questions. And thank you so much, sir, for your informative and nice lecture on mystery of human mind. You have explained the mystery of mind and brain in very simple and easy way using self-explanatory figures, and very interesting figures were those. And you have taken different examples of different movies. जिससे मतलब स्टूडेंट्स भी वो मूवी देखे होंगे बट दे हैव नॉट परसीव इन दैट वे, but you have created and just gave a new way to see and observe those movies or those documentaries to learn something from that in this way. And from myself and on the behalf of this college and deputy star scheme, sir, I just extend my heartiest thank to you for sparing your precious time. Thank you, sir. Thank you once again, sir.
Thank you. So when these situations improve, then we'll meet and we'll have better interaction.
Yes, sir.
Thank
Definitely, sir. Sure, sir.
you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
कल के लिए स्ट्रीम की जनरेट करके